Welcome to Haunted Vale, where we dive deep into the eerie and unexplained. Today we recount a bone-chilling tale from the heart of World War II, a story drenched in horror and ending in sheer terror. This is the story of the cursed bunker of Normandy. It was June 1944, shortly after the D-Day landings. The Allied forces were pushing inland, battling through the Normandy countryside. Among the advancing troops was a squad led by Sergeant Thomas Miller. They discovered a hidden German bunker deep in the forest, seemingly abandoned. The bunker was well concealed, covered in thick foliage. Miller's squad, tasked with securing the area, decided to investigate. As they descended into the damp, cold darkness, an unsettling feeling washed over them. The air grew heavy, and a strange, unidentifiable smell lingered. Inside, they found evidence of a hasty retreat. Personal belongings, half-eaten meals, and scattered papers. But what caught their attention was a locked door at the far end of the bunker. The soldiers forced it open, revealing a small room filled with strange symbols etched into the walls. The symbols seemed ancient, unlike anything they had seen before. As they pondered their meaning, a sudden chill ran through the room. The temperature dropped dramatically, and a sense of dread enveloped them. They had unknowingly awakened something dark and malevolent. Despite their unease, the squad set up camp outside the bunker, deciding to rest before reporting their findings. That night, strange occurrences began. Private James Wilson, on the first watch, reported hearing whispers coming from the forest, though no one was there. Wilson tried to shake off the feeling, but the whispers grew louder, almost pleading. He ventured a few steps into the trees, calling out, but was met with silence. Returning to camp, he dismissed it as fatigue. However, the night's disturbances were far from over. Later, the entire squad was awakened by the sound of footsteps echoing from the bunker. The men, now fully alert and weapons ready, cautiously approached. But upon inspection, the bunker was empty. The footsteps continued, now circling their camp. Panic began to set in. Sergeant Miller ordered everyone to stay together and keep watch. The footsteps eventually ceased, but the squad was left on edge, sleep eluding them as the night stretched on. By morning, the men were exhausted and jumpy. They decided to leave the cursed bunker behind and rejoin their unit. However, the forest seemed to conspire against them. No matter which direction they took, they ended up back at the bunker's entrance. Fear turned to desperation as they realized they were trapped. Miller tried to maintain order, but the men were losing their nerve. That night, the hauntings escalated. Shadowy figures moved among the trees, and disembodied voices echoed through the camp. Private Wilson, already shaken from the previous night, saw a figure standing at the edge of the forest, beckoning him. Against his better judgment, he followed, drawn by an unseen force. Moments later, the squad heard his terrified screams. They found Wilson in a state of hysteria, babbling about a woman in white. He described a ghostly figure with hollow eyes and a mournful wail. The men were terrified. Miller, trying to remain rational, insisted they stay together, but the terror had already taken hold. As the days passed, the squad's situation grew dire. Supplies dwindled, and the forest's oppressive presence weighed heavily on them. The hauntings became more frequent and intense. Men reported seeing their dead comrades, hearing their names whispered in the night. Mental strain took its toll. Private Harris, once a stoic and reliable soldier, became erratic and paranoid. He claimed the forest was alive, watching and waiting to claim them. His ravings unsettled the others, who began to question their sanity. One night, Harris snapped. He attacked his fellow soldiers, convinced they were the ones haunting him. It took 3 men to subdue him, but the damage was done. Trust within the squad had eroded, and fear had fully taken root. Sergeant Miller, desperate to find a solution, delved into the symbols in the bunker. He believed they held the key to their escape. But as he studied them, he felt a dark presence looming over him, whispering in an ancient, malevolent tongue. Miller's obsession with the symbols grew, and he became withdrawn. The men, now leaderless and demoralized, could only wait and hope for a miracle. One night, as a storm raged outside, Miller had a breakthrough. The symbols, he realized, were a curse meant to trap and torment. He believed that by performing a ritual, he could lift the curse and free his men. But the ritual required a sacrifice. The men were horrified at the prospect. Tensions flared, and arguments broke out. In the chaos, Harris, still unstable, saw an opportunity. He offered himself as the sacrifice, believing it was the only way to end his torment. Miller, despite his reservations, saw no other choice. The ritual began, with the squad gathered around a makeshift altar. As Harris lay down, Miller recited the incantation. The air grew thick with anticipation, and the forest seemed to hold its breath. As the final words were spoken, a blinding light enveloped Harris. His screams pierced the night, and the men watched in horror as his body contorted and twisted. When the light faded, Harris was gone, leaving only a charred outline on the ground. The forest was silent. The oppressive atmosphere lifted. The squad, now free from the curse, felt a mix of relief and sorrow. They had lost a comrade, but they believed they had broken the curse. Little did they know, the worst was yet to come. Believing they were free, the squad set out to leave the forest. But as they walked, a dense fog rolled in, and they found themselves back at the bunker. The air was colder, and a sense of dread returned. They realized the ritual had failed. That night, the hauntings resumed, more violent and terrifying than before. The spirits of fallen soldiers, including Harris, appeared, their faces twisted in agony. The men were tormented by visions of their past battles and the souls they had lost. The apparitions grew bolder, attacking the men physically and mentally. Private Wilson, now on the edge of insanity, could no longer bear it. He ran into the forest, screaming, never to be seen again. The squad was dwindling, their hope fading. Sergeant Miller, now desperate and broken, pleaded with the spirits for mercy. But the hauntings only intensified, as if feeding off his despair. The forest had claimed them, and there was no escape. The final night was a blur of terror and madness. The spirits closed in, and one by one, the men fell, their screams echoing through the cursed forest. Miller, the last to fall, was left alone with his guilt and the tormented souls of his comrades. Days later, another Allied squad found the bunker. They discovered the bodies of Miller's men, their faces frozen in expressions of pure terror. The curse had claimed them all, leaving behind a chilling warning for those who would dare to venture into the forest. The cursed bunker of Normandy remains a dark legend, a place where the horrors of war and the supernatural collide. Those who hear the story are reminded of the thin veil between the living and the dead, and the terrible price of disturbing the unknown. Thank you for joining me on this eerie journey. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more spine-tingling tales from Haunted Ville. Share your thoughts and any similar experiences you know in the comments below. Until next time, stay curious and stay spooky.